Hey everybody, and welcome to another RCT2 review. Today we wrap up our H2H9 review series with Gladstime. This is the Tile Inspector's final park, going up against the Adventurers Club, which we looked at last video. So Gladstime was 35% by Fish, 25% by Renee, 20% by Where's Walto, 10% by Who's Leon, and 10% by Tsulake. This is a heck of a park. As we get into it right away from kind of our opening scene here, I will say this park has custom music, so when you download it, be sure to listen to it. Granted, I don't put custom music into the game ever. I just listen to it on a media player alongside, just because there's so much to so many parks that use it. You'd be swapping it over and over and over again. So do that for sure, because it certainly helps with the atmosphere. And honestly, a lot of the parks this season had custom music, so it's easier for me to do the reviews without it. So we're leaving it off for now. But if you view it yourself, definitely do that look. So here we start with a pretty atmospheric beginning. And as the name might suggest, or will suggest as you get further on, this is sort of Norse Viking themed. We are headed to Valhalla. So here we have a procession of fallen soldiers as they are heading to the promised land. While they're moving along, because they're going to take their time, let's look at what we've got here at the start. This is a battle scene. Here you got these huge swords coming down. You've got the shield, which is just a super clever way to do this, sinking the carousel in. Zoom in a little further here, and you get this kind of really interesting sort of portal thing, and all the just village houses and everything that look like they've been burned or destroyed. And you have a pack of wolves here, also skeletons and other things like that. As we get further up, we get this just kind of super atmospheric procession as these guys continue their way. So you have these blowing winds done in the form of custom ride vehicles. You've got the snow falling. You've got all these really heavy textural stuff, and then the sort of stop points on the way. So there's this kind of big bird dragon nest thing here. We've got a fire. Over here, there's a creature here. So this is Fenrir waiting for the Ragnarok, and some unfortunate death and destruction outside of that. This is maybe my favorite bit in this section, is the buried village. Love the steeple sort of sticking up out of the landscape here. The challenge with this on my initial pass, and it got a little bit better after I spent some time looking at it, is it's just really hard to read. Like, there's just so much texture and so much kind of grit to it that it almost comes across as a little pixelated more than anything else. But I mean, that was the intention. It's sort of this almost art impressionist type landscape. It comes across more as a painting than anything else, and that's commendable, because I think this kind of texture and detailing would have been unheard of a couple years ago in RCT. So the fact that we're at this point in the game development that we can be doing this sort of thing is pretty darn cool. We've already spent a lot of the map, actually, without a whole lot of stuff going on, but we're going to open up here as we come across, and as our heroes here make it to the Great Hall, and we're going to open up to our giant structure here, and we'll zoom out real quick, and you can see the structure. And actually, this angle belies how big this thing is, so we're going to spin around here in a minute and take a look. First, I want to point out this frozen waterfall, or frozen river, I suppose, that will turn into a waterfall here in a little bit, is really cool. I love the way that the snow sits on top of it. We got the ice coming across, and then you have some fishermen out here, and just really frames the entrance well, as does this RMC coaster that kind of wraps down and around, and these sort of spikes that come out, very menacing fortress-like entrance. And here comes everybody on in. I think Fish said that there was an issue with this ride, that I was supposed to have sort of a steady stream of folks coming in over time, but we can kind of imagine that too. Love these this entrance hall here, where we've got the folks here welcoming the people coming in. Great architecture with the shields and just the steep roofs and the very Norse architecture throughout. I love these doors here with the gold, and then just all the different people and creatures throughout the space. That RMC comes back in and takes the form of a couple of just pretty interesting elements here with this airtime hill here, and then over here we'll see some more. But I did turn now, like I said I was going to, and as we come back in here, you can see how much drop off there is. So we actually are using, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 layers worth of space as we come on down the waterfall and the frozen waterfall, which is beautiful for one, and into our harbor here. So trying to figure out where to start. We'll go up here to the main space here. So we've got our kind of giant castle, which towers over pretty much everything else. Our fortress-like details around the backside. This gate with the river is pretty neat. Also, more frozen waterfall going on here. Certainly landscaping the strength of this park. Here we have the Irisil tree, the holy tree, growing out, and actually one of the very few green things in the park, actually the only green thing, which I'm sure was intentional. This palette very muted on the whole. You got browns, you got green or reds, and you know, the whites from the snow. And after that, there's pretty much nothing else. So it's kind of a nice, interesting look at colors and how you really call out different things. So that tree works well there. There's a couple little vignettes right in here, and we'll see a little bit later. Love these towers. This one's great, the way that this kind of expands out on top and has the nice stone base, and then this kind of larger piece kind of plonked on top of it there. Our queue coming around for one of the rides. We can see the Mjolnir here, ready to launch some riders around. And let's look at some of these rides. So this ice kind of frozen bobsled type ride is pretty interesting, using the single rail coaster and doing it surprisingly well. So we've got the Valkyrie Magic, as it is called, going around, and it works shockingly good for a just kind of icicles and things hanging off of it. It just looks nice. I did not expect something to be running on that when I had first seen it, so that's a winner for me there. Over on this side, we have some ride here, this At the Valkyrie's Mercy, where they carry people around on the ride, which is kind of a fun way to do it. You can see just shooting overhead here, and we'll see it again, is the arrow shooting. So custom ride vehicle there for the little arrow shot. And then on this side, we have our lift hill here at the end, this vertical lift hill for the RMC, and we have this guy who's, I guess, cranking the overall wheels here to pull this thing up. I mentioned when we were looking at the Silk Park that we would be getting, or we were seeing a lot of use of these wheels already, and once again, this is sort of the Tile Inspector's trademark, I sort of feel like. So here's that coaster coming on up. If only those wheels rotated, I think it would be even further compressed. So this is Thorn, and this is wood from the tree. So let's see if we can pick this up and take a look. So here we're waiting for the block brakes. So let's spin it around. Pick this up here. So you have this great drop underneath, and then back in and over top of this kind of sweeping hill. Here's the big drop, this kind of outward bank to a vertical drop all the way down. A really nice airtime hill over top of the harbor. Wrapping around all these other rides and things that we're going to look at here in just a minute. Come back across, arch over top. This architecture is really well done, those supports and everything. And a couple other rolls here. We're going to roll there. Bit of a curve back and forth, and up and over to this little bit here. Wrap around, and then we'll get back and hit the lift hill again. Nice flowing layout, you know, certainly a cool fantasy design to the whole thing. This this drop is a pretty cool sequence here with this arch over top. On the side here, we have these drop towers. A little bit weird because they have the bumps in them, which isn't quite something I think you'd want to have on a real one, but it does hug the terrain pretty well, and looks neat. I like that there's two different heights of them, which is kind of a cool idea. Um, but as we get into this village space, you have these great little kind of various walkways hugging the sides of the big cliff and a couple of these buildings. You zoom in here. This is hardly recognizable as RCT these days, with diagonals and half diagonals, and then this is kind of the regular angles. So there's just so much now that you have as far as options and opportunities go to make buildings that look original and fresh. And they're not really detailed, but there's enough going on that they look, perfectly in place. And there are little things like this light is on in the window. This one is not. So all sorts of bits and pieces like that. We spin around, we can see the rest of our village here and kind of the heights. It does become, once again, a little hard to read in some spots where we have some definite elevations and things like that, where there's a bunch of different levels, and it's all sort of a big amalgamation of brown and gray. But that said, you have your things that clue you in, like this big lift tower right here, some great ornate structure around it. And then a ride, so you have a swing ride here, you have this condor type ride here with these folks pushing around the thing to keep it moving. There's some other little bits and pieces here with peeps and animated rides throughout. I like the using the Enterprise here as the top of the swing. It's an NCSO trick we've seen a couple of times, but certainly looks good. Spin back around again. So we've got a nice little village here, a lot of snow and things like that. I love this this fence along the side. It's a really, really expressive fence as far as just detail goes, with pieces and parts that I wouldn't have necessarily picked, but it really recreates the big kind of thick, heavy timbers that you would expect really, really well. We do have our defenses up, and we have the people here waiting with our crossbows and ballistas and everything like that. Missed a little invisible there, but that's not a huge issue compared to the rest of this. Down in the harbor itself, we've got a couple pretty cool things. First of all, the shipbuilding along the side, and then the actual ships that are existing here in the space. I love the ice flows throughout and how it comes out from the waterfall here, and there's just a couple of smaller bits and pieces. Kind of really gets that frigid feel to everything, but kind of has the warmth of the browns and the reds and everything else throughout the space. Here's Valkyrie. Valkyrie's leaving the dorm, so flying around in a bunch of different areas. So you'll find them in a lot of different spots. As here's a Valkyrie over here reviving some people who met an end that was probably a little unpleasant. But yeah, going back to this harbor, we've got these great ships. Again, the shields and everything really nice with the different colors and all of that. And then some of our stalls, carrying those new stalls all the way to the end of the contest. I think those will go down as one of those MVP type rides / items for the space. I love this walkway, just how kind of grid breaking it is, I suppose we'll say, where it's got the steep climbs and then the half diagonals and the diagonals, and it still is readable the whole way around as to how it works its way up to that space. It feels very kind of haphazard and everything else. You saw the guy here who just jumped off the one peep. I don't know if you caught that as it was happening there into the water. But there's just so much to see as far as little details here, and just really nice architecture, really well put together. I love this space here in the middle. So this is the championship arena where there's some kind of battles and fights and everything going on with the Valkyrie above who's reviving all the people. So you can fight to the death and get revived. So it sounds like a good time. Here again, another little spinning piece on top. So kind of like we saw with the Adventurers Club swing ride, where it was already spinning, which is kind of a neat neat way to showcase some movement without actually having the structure move. But yeah, this architecture is very nicely put together. Again, using these half diagonals and full diagonals and everything else. They're very, very versatile, as we've seen through the whole space. Let's pull out our cutaway view here real quick, just so we can kind of see some more of the stuff that's in here. So we have some tables and things like that throughout the space, and here's a kind of library of sorts. You can see there is some detail paid to all of those various bits and pieces throughout the whole thing. So certainly very cool and well put together. The edge tiles are sort of kind of hidden with the black tile, and that was one of the comments from a lot of people. But honestly, it didn't bother me too much. I kind of viewed it as just sort of a painting on a landscape, and I think that worked just fine. But this angle is maybe my favorite, just because you really get that overall height and elevation change, and with the big rock work on the right hand side, where it's kind of transitioning from that dark gray all the way up to the snowy white up at the top, you really get that sense of height and sense of cliff through the whole thing. But yeah, one hell of a park from the tile inspectors, and the voting went their way also. So the tile inspectors took home the Head-to-Head 9 championship with a score of 52-11, and I think it's a well-deserved win. All the teams stepped up this year, and I think we had probably the best head-to-head that at least I've been around for, and I've been around since Head-to-Head 3. So lots of good stuff to say. Certainly can't say enough about the effort that everybody put in for this contest. But tile inspectors came out on top. A well-deserved win and a good conclusion to our video series. For those who watched all of these videos, thank you so much for going through the whole series with us. I am hope to move on to new things now as we continue through other reviews and hack tutorials and plenty of other stuff. So if you have a suggestion, feel free to drop it in the comments and let me know what you think. Anyway, thanks for coming along for the ride. This was a fun one to cover. So congrats to all the teams and all the players. We will see you again in 3 years for Head-to-Head 10. So until next time, thank you very much for watching, and have a great day. Bye now.